On the rugged coast of Maine, there stood an old lighthouse, its beams sweeping across the dark, tumultuous sea. The lighthouse was more than just a beacon for ships. It was a symbol of love and devotion, a promise made long ago by a man named Samuel. Samuel had been the lighthouse keeper for over 40 years. He was a man of few words, but his eyes told stories of a life filled with love, loss, and unwavering commitment. Many years ago, Samuel had fallen in love with a beautiful woman named Clara. She was the daughter of a fisherman, with eyes as blue as the sea and a heart as wild as the ocean winds. Their love was like the tide, steady, strong, and unbreakable. They spent countless nights walking along the shore, dreaming of a future together. Samuel had always promised Clara that he would build her a house on the cliff, overlooking the sea, where they would live out their days in happiness. But fate had other plans. One stormy night, a fierce tempest swept across the coast, and Clara, out at sea with her father, never returned. The ocean had claimed her, and with her, it took Samuel's dreams and his reason for living. Heartbroken but determined to keep his promise, Samuel took up the role of the lighthouse keeper. He made the lighthouse his home, watching over the sea every night, as if hoping to catch a glimpse of Clara's spirit in the waves. He kept the light burning bright, guiding ships safely to shore, just as he had once hoped to guide Clara back to him. Years passed, and Samuel became a part of the lighthouse, his hair as white as the foam on the waves, his face weathered like the rocks on the shore. He rarely left the lighthouse, his only companion the endless sea and the memories of his lost love. One cold winter night, as a fierce storm raged outside, Samuel sat by the fire, his hands wrapped around a cup of tea. The wind howled, and the waves crashed against the rocks below. But inside, the lighthouse was warm and filled with the quiet peace that comes from a life well lived, even one tinged with sorrow. As the clock struck midnight, there was a soft knock at the door. Samuel, surprised, got up and opened it, expecting to find a lost traveler seeking shelter. But instead, there stood a figure, shrouded in mist, with eyes as blue as the sea and a smile that warmed his heart even in the coldest of storms. "Clara," he whispered, hardly daring to believe his eyes. The figure nodded, her smile sad yet serene. "I've come to keep your promise, Samuel. It's time." Samuel felt tears in his eyes as he reached out to touch her, feeling the warmth of her hand in his. The years seemed to melt away, and he was once again the young man who had walked the shores with his beloved Clara. Together, they walked out of the lighthouse and into the storm, hand in hand. The waves roared, and the wind whipped around them, but they didn't feel the cold. For the first time in years, Samuel's heart was light, free from the burden of loss. As they reached the edge of the cliff, Clara turned to him, her eyes filled with love. "You kept your promise, Samuel. You never stopped looking for me." "And I never will," he replied, his voice steady, filled with the certainty of a man who has finally found peace. With one final smile, Clara led him into the mist, and together they disappeared into the night. The storm continued to rage, but the lighthouse stood strong, its light shining bright, a beacon of hope, love, and the promise of eternal devotion. The next morning, the townspeople found the lighthouse empty, the light still burning, but Samuel was gone. Some say he finally reunited with his lost love, and that on stormy nights, you can still see two figures walking hand in hand along the cliff, the lighthouse's beam guiding them home. Moral: true love transcends time, loss, and even death, enduring as a guiding light in the darkest of times.